Hey guys, it's Raul again, and today I'll be making a video where I ask you guys your opinion on a lot of these books. So I was going through my shelf a little while ago, and I was seeing kind of what books I had on my shelves, what books I wanted to kind of incorporate in 2021, and these are all series that I found that I have on my shelf that I haven't really heard anybody talk about. So I want to ask for your opinions today. If there's anybody out there that has read these series or has read the entirety of some of these series, I'd love to hear your opinions, if they're good, if they're worth reading or anything like that, because I haven't really heard a lot of the people that I watch talk about these series at all. So again, if you guys have read any of these series, I would love to hear some of your opinions on them, because that's going to kind of help me figure out if I want to keep these series on my shelf, if I'm going to try and read some of these series this year or not. So yeah, without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. Now, the first book I have on this list is The Edge of Nowhere by Elizabeth George. This is the first book in a YA, I believe, mystery series. I don't know if it's YA or new adult or something, but it's about this girl who moves to this town. She's escaping something, and it takes place, I guess, in some coastal town. So the whole atmosphere, the setting of it is very interesting, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about this series at all. I think I was on Book Outlet and ended up kind of throwing this in my cart because it sounded really interesting. Again, the whole setting sounded very interesting. But yeah, this is one that I went on Goodreads to check some reviews. I don't think anybody that I follow on Goodreads has actually read this novel at all. So if you guys have read this book, have read this series, please let me know what your thoughts are on this, because I don't know what to expect going into this one at all. And the next series on this list is Snow Like Ashes by Sarah Rash. Now, this one is one that I vaguely remember hearing about when I first started doing BookTube years ago, and I know it follows kind of these warring kingdoms or something, and each kingdom is a different season. So there's summer, spring, fall, and winter, and they're all at war with each other. So that's kind of all I really know. I tried picking this up on audiobook a couple of years ago and just wasn't paying attention to it, so I ended up putting it down. But I haven't heard anybody talk about the series other than explaining what the premise is about. I think I've heard people mention this in like book hauls and stuff, but not actual like reviews. So I don't really know if this is a series that is very good. I own all 3 books in this trilogy because, again, the premise sounds very interesting, but I don't know of anybody that's actually read through this series and has said that this is a worthwhile series or not. So I have another series that I have high hopes for, but again, I haven't heard absolutely anybody talk about this one at all, and that is The Valiant by Leslie Livingston. This follows women gladiators. It's like historical. The premise, again, sounds really, really interesting. I really want to love this series, but this is another series that I haven't really heard anybody talk about at all. I think I Googled, I was trying to find kind of feminist or YA retellings of Beowulf, because at the time I was really into Beowulf and wanted to find something, and this popped up in a list somewhere. I don't think it's Beowulf inspired at all, but it popped on a list because it's women gladiators. So that's why I ended up kind of, putting it on my radar and on my Amazon wish list, and ended up kind of eventually picking up all 3 books in this series. But I haven't heard anybody talk about this series at all. Again, if you guys have read this one, please let me know if it's a good series or not, because I have no idea what to expect going into this trilogy at all, because, again, I haven't heard anything. Then I have Dangerous Creatures by Cami Garcia and Margaret Stoll. This is the first book in the spin-off series for Beautiful Creatures. And I think the reason why I haven't really heard anybody at all talk about this series is the fact that people usually give up on the Beautiful Creatures series 2 books in, because a lot of people don't really like book 2, so they don't end up continuing on with that series at all. So I think that's probably why I haven't heard anything about this duology, I believe it is, because there are only 2 books out. I own both books in the duology. I really enjoyed the Beautiful Creatures series, but this one kind of changes its setting. It follows 2 of the side characters, and they're out in New York now, so it's no longer kind of the Southern Gothic feel to it. It's more urban fantasy. So yeah, I am very hesitant to go into this one. I've had it on my shelf for a long time, and I've kept them on my shelves for this long because, again, I've really liked the Beautiful Creatures series when I read this one years ago, but another series that I haven't heard anybody talk about. I have Starters by Lisa Price. This is the first book in a duology, the next book being Enders, and it's a YA science fiction kind of body snatcher type story. This is another one that I picked up on a whim at Book Outlet because I really, really enjoyed these covers, but again, I have not heard a single person talk about these ones at all. None of my Goodreads friends have read this one or have posted reviews on this one at all. So this is another one that I have no idea if it's good or not, and it's been on my shelf for way, way, way too long. So again, if you guys have read these and have any opinions on them, I'd love to know, because I want to know if I'm going to, end up picking these up or not. We'll see what ends up happening. I'm still fairly interested in this one, but I think as time passes, I kind of end up losing interest in these series as I see them on my shelves unread. So yeah, let me know if you guys have read this one too. And then the next two series that I have on here are series that I actually have heard some reviews and everything on, at least on the first books, but then I don't really hear anything with the continuations, if anybody enjoys the rest of these books in the series. The first one being I Darken by Kirsten White. A lot of people I heard talk about this series, that's why I know about this series. When it first came out, because it's like a gender-bent Vlad the Impaler type of YA retelling, and a lot of people were talking about this first book when it first came out, but I haven't really heard anybody talk about the continuation. I feel like people read this first book and then never continued on with the rest of the trilogy. I own all 3 books in the trilogy, so I would love to know if the rest of the series is worth it. But yeah, this was, I remember it had very mixed reviews at the beginning. That's probably why a lot of people didn't really review the following books in this trilogy, but another one that I'm very curious to know what your thoughts are if you guys have read the rest of this series. And then the final series is Half Bad by Sally Green. This is the first book in a trilogy, YA trilogy, that I remember, again, first came out, or I heard things about when I first started BookTube years ago, and it's supposed to be like a, it's like a witch type novel where there are these clans of witches. I remember listening to this on audiobook very, very quickly and not really paying much attention to it, so I honestly don't remember a thing about it. I remember really enjoying the atmosphere and the vibe and everything. The main character is a male witch, and there's something about, black and white witches or something in this world. Vaguely, again, remember this series at all. But a lot of people, I remember hearing very mixed things about this series, and then nothing at all about the rest of the series at all. So this is another one that I'm curious to know if you guys continued on with this series, what your thoughts are on the rest of this trilogy, if it's worth it or not, because another series that I own all of the books in, I think that's kind of like a recurring theme in this pile, is books that I kind of own all of the books for, and just, I don't know why I ended up purchasing all of the books in this trilogy. I think after, a while, I kind of learned my lesson and stopped purchasing all of the books in a series if I haven't started the series, because I don't know if it's going to be good or not. So yes, this is back. I bought all of these books back in my phase of purchasing all of the books in a series and then not even enjoying the first one, and then ended up getting rid of the rest of the books. So yeah, guys, it is it for the series that I would love to have more opinions on. Please, please let me know down below if you guys have read any of these series, what your thoughts were on them. I would absolutely love to know, because I'm trying to compile, again, ideas of whether I'm going to pick up these series or not, whether they're good, whether they're worth it at all. Please let me know. Before you go, please hit the like button and consider subscribing if you haven't already. I post videos every Tuesday and Friday. Thank you guys all again for watching, and I will see you all next time.